just need to sign off on things.
Yes, and that should have just popped up. It just popped up.
It's
for
good.
me. So the recording, okay, everybody's set. In Minnesota, it's the same thing. There you get to hear my accent. So hello, everybody, and officially welcome to our reunion 2021, i.e. virtually here. So I'm so glad I'm getting to see some faces, even if I can't hug you, but I promise big hugs are coming their way later. It's so good to see everybody. Thank you so much, especially to our members of cabinet who are here to give us a couple of updates and to answer your questions and to just really, get this whole week of virtual events kicked off for us. So for those of you that don't know, I'm Kristen Schaff, class of 99. I'm the VP for Reunion. And normally I'm the one running around with a bag and telling people, yes, you can go get food and water there. And this is where you go to the bathrooms. But today I get to, sit on my chair. So a couple of pieces, we put the guidelines to the call in the invite. Pretty self-explanatory. We're going to be respectful of people's time and just feelings. We're going to have a respectful conversation, as well as cameras optional. Mine might need to come down just for bandwidth at some point, so no problem there. We're going to keep you on mute if you don't mind, just while we let the cabinet talk. And then I'm going to be with Rachel Porter, who's 06, our alumni office person, with Chris Pollock in our comms office, and Emily Van Ostrand in our comms office. And Michelle just went away. Michelle's iPad, affectionately known as Michelle's iPad today, from our development office. They're going to help me with the chat. I'm going to consolidate questions if they come in and are similar, just to keep us moving. And that is, I think, everything that I had on my list. Time and volume, yes. And we're going to follow up with everything after email if we can't get through everything. Okay. So with that and the couple of puppies barking in the background, President Gibraltar, I'm going to go ahead and hand it over to you and have you get us started with some updates.
Thank you so much, Kristen. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
I can.
Great, thank you. Thank you. It is wonderful to see all of you, although I wish you were here. I want to thank you, Kristen, for moderating tonight's panel discussion. I don't want to make you all feel jealous, but I'm sitting at Thomas House. I'm looking at the lake. The water is calm and beautiful. It is a beautiful evening in Aurora. And the only thing missing is all of you. It would be so much a nicer night if you were all here with us right now. I have to say that after what has been a challenging year, we had a wonderful in-person graduate-only commencement last weekend on another beautiful day. And that's my favorite time of the year. And my second time of the year is reunion. And I'm so happy to see everybody with us tonight. I want to start by just saying that we're in a much different place, in a much more positive place than we were in a year ago. We're very likely to reach our enrollment goal for fall 2021. We're doing very well right now with deposits. We've largely kept COVID-19 out of our community. We had a largely in-person academic experience for our students this year. And as the spring semester kind of moved along, things started to get a little bit more back to normal. And while students missed some of our traditions, they were very happy that they got to experience many of the traditions that you all are very much aware of. I want to say also that for those of you that have supported us throughout your lifetime, but certainly in the last year, I don't have words to express my gratitude. I'm so grateful to every one of you for the support that you've given us not just the financial support, the emotional support, the ideas, your suggestions, your input. It mattered mightily to us. And we are where we are today because of this community, a community that came together. And I tried to be open and transparent with everybody. I shared in the moment everything that was going on. And I've kept you informed throughout the course of the year. And I know that you all wonder, what is the college's ability to sustain itself into the future? And you're going to hear a little bit more about that tonight as we discuss some of the things within our strategic plan, some of the things that have been put in place over the course of this past year. And I see also, I was remiss and I apologize, many of our trustees are joining us on this call tonight, including our board chair, Marie Carroll. And I just want to say to our trustees that we are indebted to you and incredibly fortunate for the expertise that you bring to the table every single day. We did this together, the trustees, the cabinet, and this entire community. And I'm so grateful for everything that everyone has done. So before we begin the Q&A, I'd like to take a moment for each member of my leadership team to introduce themselves. So I'm going to call on them in alphabetical order, have them mention their name and what their area of responsibility is and how long they've been with us at Wells. So I'll start with Chris.
Hey there, I'm Chris Pollock. I'm the Director of Communications and Marketing, and I've been at Wells in this current iteration since 2017.
Thank you, Chris. Cindy?
Hi, I'm Cindy Speaker, Provost and Dean of the College. I've been at Wells for 15 years now. First as the Associate Dean of the College, then as Associate Provost for Academic and Student Life, and finishing my 10th year as Provost and Dean of the College.
Thank you, Cindy. Gerard?
Hi, everybody. I'm Gerard Turbide. I'm Vice President for Enrollment Services. So I have a responsibility for the admissions area and financial aid, and I've been at Wells since July of 2019.
Good to see you, Gerard. Larry?
I thought we were doing this in alphabetical order, John. I was so confused.
I don't know, me too.
I'm Larry Jerome. I have the privilege of being your Vice President for Advancement. I have been with the college since August of 19, when the cloud was still lifted and life was normal. So we look forward to having that come back to us again when next year's reunion will be massive. Stay tuned.
Well, I don't think they make a big enough tent for next year's reunion. And Robert?
Good evening. My name is Robert Cree. I'm the college's Vice President and Chief Financial Officer. I've been here now all told about 5 years. In between that time there, I did take I call it a sabbatical, but I most recently returned back to Wells in January of this year in the same role. And that includes overseeing not only the college's business functions, but human resources and information technology as well.
Thank you.
And the proud father of a 2021 graduate.
That's right.
Yes, that is correct. Yes.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Go Oddline.
And
I knew it was gonna happen.
realized how important that was until, she spent her 4 years there. And
yeah. Also, Charles Kenyon, our Dean of Students, is not with us this evening. He's on a much needed vacation, so he's with his children. So with that, Kristen, I'm going to turn it back over to you and let you facilitate the question and answer part of this program.
Great. Thank you so much. And thank you to everybody for those introductions. We do have some interesting start dates, right? You all started, as you say, before the cloud started, and then it just kind of swept in, and now hopefully we see it on its way out. So what I'm going to do is everybody should have the chat. So I'm going have you start to put your questions on in there. Everybody says hello to Heather right now in the chat. So with that being said, while we wait for some of these to come in, President Gibraltar, or actually, I'm going to ask Cindy, because out here in Minnesota, we had a couple of questions at our last call regarding middle states. So could you give us an update on where we are and when we think we're going to hear a decision or anything?
Sure. Yep, happy to. As you know, our current status with middle states is that we're on probation, right? We still remain accredited, but we're on non-compliance probation regarding standard 6, which is about resources. We had a monitoring report that was due on February 1st. And then at the end of February, we had a small team virtual campus visit. And at the end of that virtual visit, the team provides a verbal report in terms of what their findings are. And at that time, the small team found their recommendation is that we are in compliance with standard 6. And they provided a couple of recommendations for us, but they did not have any requirements for us. And that distinction is really important in terms of middle states language. Anytime a visiting team finds an institution or puts forward to an institution requirements, the commission is required to take an adverse action. Right. So the fact that this team visit had recommendations but no requirements is really positive. And again, the fact that their position was that they found us in compliance with standard 6, again, very positive. But always a visiting team, they always tell you they are one part of the process, right? It's a multi-level process. Of an external visiting team is one part. A commission subcommittee on follow-ups is a second part, and then the commission itself is the third part. So we know that the subcommittee on follow-up visits and follow-up reports met in probably the end of May. We're never privy to what their recommendation in terms of what they put forward to the commission is, but we know that they met in May. We were originally told by our liaison with the commission that the June meeting of the commission was going to be earlier than normal. So we were hoping for an early June meeting, but recently have found out that the commission is actually meeting at their more or less regular time, which is basically the fourth Thursday of the month of June. Which is unfortunate for us just in terms of being able to share what we hope is really good news and the close of our fiscal year. So we would expect to hear from the commission probably that last Friday in June in terms of what action they took on us. And we'll share that as soon as we have it with our campus community and the wider alumni community. But we are hopeful and optimistic that we'll be taken off of probation, given what the visiting team found, and especially given that visit during a COVID year, when so many institutions are actually having more and more difficulty regarding resources. So we are very optimistic. Having said that, let me just put, my little academic pessimistic hat on. Even when you're taken off of probation, you still have to do a follow-up report. They still monitor institutions pretty closely. So we would hope that we're taking off of probation, that our accreditation is reaffirmed, and that we are required to do another monitoring report, probably sometime due maybe in December of 2022 or February of 2023.
So Cindy, if I can say that, it's kind of like a checkup visit, right? So we went into the doctor, they found some things wrong, and now we followed, we did things right. We're hoping for a good report, but either way, there's going to be a checkup visit, and we just
Exactly.
have to keep on track, right?
Right. And that's really what it is. It's making sure that the plans you said you were putting into place have been implemented, and they're having the returns that you think that they should have. Right.
Got it.
More, Middle States is being much more vigilant in terms of oversight, especially given our current economic situation in the country, and where institutions of higher education are, both in terms of finances, assessment, accreditation, just a whole lot of things, right? We're living in an environment where the public is really crying out for more oversight of institutions of higher ed, right? That there's question about, are we doing what we say we're doing for our students and for our graduates?
That makes sense. I'm going to give you a follow-up, and I'm going to ask you to go a little deeper on what you did. So Ria has asked us for an overview of the recommendations for Middle States. I know there were many, but if you could just kind of give us an overview, how about that?
So the visiting team had 3 recommendations in their report. One was that we provide further evidence of adequate physical and human resources, including physical and technical infrastructure to support operations. Okay. One was that we provide further evidence of strategies to address our enrollment decline. All right. So we have, the first one is about resources. Do you have sufficient resources to do what you want to do? Second is about enrollment. And then the third one was about providing, again, further evidence. And again, all of these is further evidence. It's not that we haven't provided sufficient evidence. They just want more evidence to be assured that we're, on a sustainable path. So further evidence of comprehensive planning for facilities and issues of deferred maintenance, right? Quite honestly, that one is huge for us as an institution, right? We need a master plan. The board is working on that. We're hoping to go out with an RFP this coming academic year in order to have somebody help us develop that master plan. But we have an aging infrastructure and facility space, right? It's gorgeous, but it has a lot of needs, right? And so how do we bring things up to where they need to be and then maintain them?
Great. Okay, I'm seeing her nod, so that's a good thing. You answered the question. Excellent. There we go. It's so good to see your face, Ria. Happy belated birthday. Okay, now the other thing other than Middle States, President Gibraltar, I'm going to ask you while we wait for, again, more chat questions that you have. I'm going to ask you about the strategic plan. So strategic plan has gotten, that phrase has gotten a lot of play for the last, I'm going to say 12 months in different Wells circles. So could you give us a little bit more on what the goals are and what's going on with that?
Sure. So first, just over a year ago, when the college was forced to close due to COVID, our board chair, Marie Carroll, put together what was called the Bell Tower Committee and reached out to all of our alumni and said, we want your ideas. We want to hear from you. We set up a website. And as time went on and information was gathered, it appeared as though there was a lot there. And so as a board, working closely with the cabinet, one of our trustees, Vicki Panhouse, stepped up and chaired a strategic planning committee that brought together about 100 people. And some of you are on this call today. And if you are, thank you for the time and effort you put into helping to put this plan together. And, you know, the plan was designed to sustain our core residential liberal arts offerings, while at the same time finding ways to diversify our revenue stream. You know, as you may well imagine, small colleges across the nation are struggling in a very competitive environment for students. And so it's recognized, we all need to recognize that we need to do more than just recruit first-year students to our campus. And so some of the things within the plan obviously are focused on enrollment and retention. We have an enrollment plan, and one of the strategic decisions that the board made was to make a very large investment in a strategic marketing firm that put us out there in a way that we haven't been in a long time. So social media advertising, billboards, national television commercials. I don't know how many of you saw us on the 6 o'clock news, or perhaps commercials that were leading up to the Super Bowl. No, we didn't get into the Super Bowl. Those minutes are a little bit too expensive, I'm afraid. And because of that work, and my gratitude to Gerard Turbide and his team, and I see Giovanna's on the call today, they have been doing some pretty incredible work along with the marketing firm that we work with. And they actually, it's called a funnel. It starts with, how many inquiries do we have? Well, last year, in the middle of COVID, we had like 22,000 inquiries. This year, we had 57,000 inquiries. The more inquiries you have, the more likely it is that you're going to get people to come out the bottom of the funnel, so you will, and then pay deposits and end up coming to our campus. So as of this morning, Gerard, I think we had combined first year and transfer 152 deposits for the fall. I got that right. I don't think about it much, only every 5 minutes. And another strategic partnership was formed. And many of you might or might not know this, but I am an alum of Syracuse University. That's where I got my PhD. And I'm a very good friend of their chancellor. And I called up their chancellor with a crazy idea. And I said to him, hey, you know, you guys take in what, 7, 8, maybe even more than 10,000 applications a year. And you don't make an offer of admission to everybody. What happens to the students that get a letter that says, we're sorry, we can't offer you admission at Syracuse University? I said, what about if you created a pathway for them and said to them, we can't admit you to Syracuse right now, but we'd like to offer you an opportunity to go to Wells College. And that program has been working really well for us. Last year, we enrolled 25 students through the Syracuse Pathways program. This year, at the current time, we have 26 students enrolled through Pathways. And students who have not received an acceptance letter to Syracuse have until June 30th to let us know if they'd like to accept our offer. That's been expanded a little bit because now we're also getting access to their transfer students who don't get an offer of acceptance. And we're also working with them around the possibility of bringing international students from China to Wells, where Syracuse would actually do the ESL training for these students to help them to get their TOEFL scores up. In addition, when we focus, so that's enrollment, and I think we're in a good place with enrollment, but retention is incredibly important. And I think most of you can imagine that during this pandemic, we had a lot of students leave, and they left because they didn't want to sit at home. They didn't want to come to campus and sit in their residence hall room, and they didn't know what the year was how it was gonna play out. And so we're working now on an intensive retention plan, but we also were the recipients of 2 grants. One is a New York State grant, which is the Collegiate Science and Technology Entry Program, C-STEP. And in addition, we also received something called a federal TRIO grant. The TRIO grant is $187,000 a year for 5 years, close to $1 million. And that grant is for students who fall into any one of several classifications of disadvantaged backgrounds. And so we believe that with the focused work that we're doing through the TRIO program, the C-STEP program, and just the work that we're doing on campus, we will be able to improve retention. And Ria, your question I saw is a very good one about retention of the Syracuse Pathways students. We built into the budget model that we would retain about 15% of the students who came here because they would then want to transfer to Syracuse. At the moment, it looks like we're probably going to retain more like 25%. But that's yet to come, and we'll see how that all plays out. So, enrollment, retention, partnerships, collaborative partnerships. We have, I formed a relationship with the president of Hobart and William Smith Colleges. And starting in the fall, Hobart and William Smith College is launching a master's degree in management program. And we have a couple of our graduates going directly into the program at a reduced tuition price. Because it was approved so late and it still hasn't been finally approved, it has to go to the Board of Regents on June 7th. We didn't have as many of our graduates or alumni go into the program as we would have liked. But this is just one of many things that we're working on, collaborations with Hobart and William Smith colleges. In addition, a very important new program that is evolving, and this is the last one I'll mention, Kristen, so there's other opportunities for people to speak. But the Inns of Aurora have evolved in a very big way, and I'm so sorry that you're not here to see the evolution. Taylor House, the former president's house at Wells, is now a world-class conference and event center. The old funeral home is now one of the inns. There's a 15,000 square foot world-class spa soon to open at the end of this month up on Sherwood Road by the old Bush Farm, behind the old Bush Farm. The Inns of Aurora have purchased Pumpkin Hill up on the way to Kings Ferry. They're talking about opening a craft brewery in Aurora. We have brought on another strategic decision by the trustees. We've hired some folks who have expertise in the hospitality industry, and we are now creating a hospitality management program. The minor has been approved by our faculty. There will be courses offered in the fall. The major will be developed this summer, and we hope that we'll get it approved in the fall semester. We think this hospitality management program could become a signature program for Wells College. And I'm not talking about training chefs. I'm talking about management people who will learn to manage spas, learn to manage inns, restaurants, vineyards, wineries, craft breweries. There is an enormous need in our nation right now for the evolution of people with this skill set. And as you may well know, travel and tourism is one of the largest industries in the world. And as we get to the other side of this pandemic, there's a term being used in the hospitality industry called revenge travel. And people are going to be traveling in a big way, and we're going to be at the forefront of this evolution or revolution in the travel industry over the next year. There's much more to our plan. It involves alumni mentorship programs that the WCA have been putting together for us. It involves the potential for non-credit bearing credentials. It includes so much more than what you've seen, but the strategic plan is on our website. And if you haven't read it, I'll bet you $5 that Chris Pollock is already placing the link to the plan in the chat so that you can get access to it.
It's like you know me.
Well done. Well done. Yes, he's doing it. I see him all of a sudden. It's like, okay, we got it. No, he just has to hit paste. So thank you, President Gibraltar. I think that there's so much when you say strategic plan. You know, it's 2 words, but it can mean so much, and it means so much to different people. You touched on collaboration a bit, and I would like to just say 2 things on that and do 2 heads up. Number 1, collaboration is also with the alums and the alums on this call. So if we made pledges, please make sure to get those in, because, you know, the end of the year is coming up. There you go, Larry. We don't have a gala, so I didn't get to say that about 15 times. So get your checks in before the 30th. And the second is revenge travel. I am a huge fan of revenge travel, and I say everybody on this call, revenge travel reunion next year, Aurora, let's go see these spas and all of that stuff. And we'll figure out where we can get a tent. We'll make one, John, right, Larry? We'll make one.
Oh, yeah.
Rachel will go help figure out how we can make one. And on that, Larry, if I could put you on the spot, I do see your comment, Ms. Zalewski, my classmate. I'm going to get to that. What I want to ask really quickly is if you can talk to us a little bit about that alumni and alumni mentoring program, just because I know there are alums on this call that really want to collaborate more, and we hear all of these things and we want to raise our hands to do things. So what is this and how do we do it?
Well, thank you, Kristen, and huge thanks first to yet another member of the class of '06 leadership. Yes, RP, it's your class again. Yes, yes, yes. So Eliza Hepner has been hugely helpful in leading this effort to develop a mentoring program, which is going to be incredible. It's been talked about for many, many years, but this is a time, and many of you are already in this gallery right now who are involved in it. So this is a collaboration and fully led by the WCA, supported by your members of cabinet, because this is just, it's gonna be beautiful. And this is the vision for the mentor program is to establish and institutionalize a formal program between our alums and our current students. And it's intended to complement and expand the existing academic advisor student model by creating continuity, that's a hard word, of experience for students over their 4 years. Now, you know, it's not a mandatory program, and I understand in the past, the vision was very, very broad, but this is being very carefully designed so that it will be successful at the outset. This will create stronger connections between academic studies and career development, linkages to our robust alumni and alumni network, and create engagement for all involved. It's really pretty cool. So the next steps are, there's a lot in development this summer. Materials are being put together. Champions for this are being identified. Recruitment plan is being put together. Success measures, because we all have to have success measures, right? And then that program will be socialized, and it will be launched in the fall in a small way to ensure its success. It will be a very, very important program for us, and it's all led by volunteers. It's pretty awesome.
Great, Larry, thank you for that. And I also want to, Eliza, class of '06, those '06s, we can't get away from them. There's also somebody in the class of '80 who ironically is right below you on my Zoom. And that is Chris Gordon, who is also leading one of the WCA programs. And I know enough about it to be dangerous. So that will also be socialized with everyone coming up relatively. So COVID, we said it has messed with my time frame. So I'm going to say it will be soon, realizing that soon means different things to different people. And to me, it means within the next 4 to 5 months, right? Just more to come on that. I'm sure I'm going to have people texting me going the exact timing with this. And if I find it, I will email you, but more to come. So if you want to raise your hand, be on the lookout. Okay, now I'm going to get to Ms. Zalewski. Gerard, here you go. You knew you weren't going to get off the hook. Can we hear more about retention efforts? I think this is Gerard. Retention efforts.
I
We
would
were
defer to my
surprised to see
colleague,
that the
Provost
graduating
Speaker.
class. Oh, Cindy. Okay, she's waving frantically. Sorry,
Yeah.
Cindy.
That's
So
okay.
you clearly seen it in there, right? So
Yeah, I saw Jen's question and it's a good one. And to give context, a couple things, right? So we had a number of classes that were very small coming in, close, between the 120s and the 130s as a class size, rather than the 160 to 170 that we had been. So we had some small classes that came in, and then we had a combination of two things, right? Our probation on middle states and COVID. And both of those affected enrollment in terms of returning students. So there were a number of students who chose to go elsewhere to complete their education because they weren't sure if we were going to continue, quite honestly. And even though they didn't necessarily want to leave Wells, they were really concerned, and families made a decision that they thought was in the best interest of their student. So that affected us. And then in terms of the past year as well, in terms of COVID, for a number of students who did not want to return to campus and who chose to either stay at home and pursue educational opportunities at a institution that was closer to them, or an institution where they could be a remote student in a way that was easier for them than what we could provide for them. I mean, we did accommodate a number of students who wanted to be remote only this past year. But that's not our pedagogical approach, right? As you all know, our pedagogical approach is small groups in a classroom, that close connection of faculty, student interaction and student-student interaction. So those two things combined is what is leading to having some very small classes in terms of moving through. So in terms of this year's graduating class and the next, quite honestly, the next 2 years, right? The class of 2022 and the class of 2023 right now are also very small classes that do harken back to a different time in Wells's history. And while we hope to add some people to those classes in terms of transfer students, we also recognize that they are likely to be very small classes in terms of graduates. But it's a moment in time and one that we will weather, right? And definitely has an influence on our budget for the next 2 years. But we are prepared for that. We know that from all the budget projections we have been doing, and know what we need to do in order to get past this time period. And Gerard can talk about new student recruitment in terms of where things are standing, looking in terms of this coming fall. But we are definitely in a movement to returning to where we were in terms of having those classes that are closer to 160, 170 of incoming students. This year probably won't be that level, but probably next year, given the advances we're making this year, we'll be able to do that. So I hope that answers Jen's question.
She did.
Yeah,
She
also,
appreciates the context. So thank you. Go ahead, President
If you don't
Gibraltar.
mind me jumping in, yeah. Another initiative in play right now that will help us with our enrollment is that we're in the 30-day review period with the state of New York right now for a business completion program to be offered in the downtown campus of Monroe Community College. And so the 30-day review period ends on June 10th. And we will then have students go directly from Monroe, and their downtown campus is very well attended, and come right into our business completion program offered on site in their facility. So we're very optimistic about this. We don't think we'll be able to launch it in the fall, but once we have the approval, we're going to look at whether it's realistic to launch it in January. But, you know, for those students who might not want to come to Aurora, we'll bring our program to them.
Thank you, John. Appreciate that. So we are, the chat is starting to, whatever. Everybody on the call earlier saw this, so I have to share this with everybody. So I'll just put this here. Yep, I know everybody, I'm outnumbered on this call. I'm outnumbered. I shouldn't have done that. Oh, see, there you go, Helen. Nice job. Okay, so keep those questions coming in the chat. Yeah, we'll see you all on campus next year, and we'll do the purple and gold versus the green and blue. We'll go from there. So we have managed to go about 44 minutes without any questions coming into the chat about money. And I think that I'm going to go back to my collaboration piece and just say, I think that that's something about alums, right? Like, we're interested in the money, we want to know, but we also want to know what's going on with that student experience. What is the actual, like, what are the nuts and bolts of things? So Robert, I'm going to ask you, once we all pay our pledges before June 30th, because that is the cutoff of the fund year and everyone is going to do that. That's mention number 4, since we don't have a gala. Robert, if you know, coming back to Wells after your sabbatical, as you said, could you tell us a little bit more about how the budget for next year looks? How are you able to build that while, I mean, we're still in COVID. I mean, you know, some places are open, some places aren't. How do you actually do that? And how did you?
We are. So that's a good question. And we built the budget this year based on the assumption that we would be back live and in person, right, starting in the fall. And the nice thing about this particular year's budget, and it'll be for the next 4 to 5 years going forward at least, right, is also incorporating in pieces of the strategic plan that was put together that really melds together nicely with our budget, because it was designed to support the college's budget, and as President Gibraltar mentioned earlier, help further diversify the revenue streams that Wells has relied on for so many years. One of them, and the primary one, as you all know, is predominantly our reliance on enrollment. And we know going forward that can be a slippery slope. And to the extent that we can give relief from that reliance, it just puts us in so much of a better position. You know, this year's budget, much like years in the past that I've built, also relies very heavily on everyone that I'm looking at here on the screen and all of your colleagues. I've said this time and time again, it has always amazed me the support that Wells receives from its alumni relative to its overall budget. And I say that with experience working at 2 other institutions beside Wells as well. And so it really is, it's humbling, you know, every year when I put that together or put the budget together. Now, sometimes I say, right, that size has its disadvantages. In this case, size for Wells has really had its advantage. And what I mean by that is, over this last year, while COVID has really turned all of our worlds upside down, you all know that the federal government has provided what we call federal stimulus packages. And to colleges and universities, a portion of those funds we were required to use directly for support for emergency student relief. And the remaining of the stimulus funds are provided directly to institutions that are to be used to help offset expenses that were related to COVID. And so when I say that size has worked in our advantage, what I really mean is that not only in fiscal 20, but fiscal 21, we expect, well, let me back up and say in fiscal 20, we saw positive results financially. fiscal 21, we anticipate positive results. And for fiscal 22, the most recent stimulus package will flow into that year, which has really helped allow our budget to continue forward for another year. Now, Cindy really alluded or sort of alluded to the fact that our budget for fiscal 22 is actually budgeted at a deficit, but that's not a surprise to us. We knew, and we could see based on enrollment trends coming in that 22 and 23 were going to be pivotal years for us. And I would argue that the federal stimulus funds, in addition to especially the support that came in the last few years, has really provided enough oomph, if you will, right, to get us through the next few years, to allow the strategic plan and all the initiatives to take hold. Because we all know, right, that none of that's going to happen overnight. Even if we were just talking about enrollment, those of you that have been on these calls or even saw us and met with us in person in the years past know that, you know, as if we miss our enrollment in any given year, right, we live with that for 4 years. And so that cycle, if you will, right, it takes a good 3 to 4 years to come out of that. So all that to say that, you know, our size has been our friend. I don't want to say COVID has been a good thing, but the federal stimulus packages have been a good thing from that standpoint. They've certainly helped us. The annual giving has been just as important, if not more, over the last few years. And the strategic plan, like I said, it's not a plan that really was designed to impact us 1 year, but I believe, and I believe my colleagues would say the same, and the board would say the same, it really is structured to provide a framework to allow Wells to move forward year over year into the future. And, you know, it's something that the way it was put together, much like our financial projections, every year we will revisit it. We will add another year to those, you know, those plans, massage that, look at what's working, what isn't, add new things, take away those that aren't working, things like that. And that's not something that I've seen in my, I'll say, short tenure at Wells, but it really melds together well with not only our financial projections, but the budget in general.
Robert, thank you for that. Good job on your second back, right? That's what we were talking about before. So
I wish it
welcome
was
back.
in person, but this is, you know, this is
And
the next best
so
thing.
do I. Absolutely. We have a question in the chat, and Ria, I see yours regarding academic offerings. I'm going to get there, but we're on the financial topic, so I'm going to stick there. Robert, we have a question regarding the endowment, and I think it's what is the endowment this year? I don't know if Marina is referring to the draw or the actual amount. So could you share a little bit about what the endowment is and how it works?
Yeah, so those of you that
In
have,
like short version, right? Like we don't need
so
the
the college's cash value of the endowment's roughly $29 million. Okay. The college relies on a 7% spending rate, but of that 7%, 2% actually goes back into the endowment as repayment for what we call the Cypre agreement that was entered into, oh God, probably going back 5-6 years now. So the net draw really that Wells takes out of its endowment on an annual basis is 5%. And I think most institutions tend to draw roughly 4.4 to 4.5. So we are drawing a little more than other institutions. But I also know if I was to compare us to institutions of our size, that has also been growing with other institutions. So in other words, you know, 4.5, you know, they're probably going to be looking at 4.6, 4.7. And so they'll be getting closer to where we have been consistent for the last easily 5-6 years, which has been the 5% net draw. So that was actually 2 different answers. Hopefully I got to the crux of the question, but if not, please let me know.
I was going to say that was certainly short. That's the shortest answer I've ever heard regarding endowment, and I understood all of it. So nice job, Robert.
Okay.
There you go. Okay, we have now now the questions are coming in. It's as if people know what I'm going to say. So a general question about academic offerings.
Kristen, forget my question. Answer the financial ones instead.
Okay, yes, ma'am.
Hold mine till the end if there's time. I'll mute
Okay,
myself.
so Cindy, you're on notice. General question about academic offerings might
Yeah,
be coming to you.
I'll be more specific in the chat.
Okay, thank you, Ria. Okay, so Betsy, 96. Has the college been able to reestablish relationships with Wells Fargo, American Express, etc.? I was concerned to see those had fallen away, but corporate giving right now, you know, it's kind of in one of those areas.
I
Is
can-
that Larry?
Kristen, I can answer.
Oh,
I can
go ahead,
actually
John.
answer that question. We have tried, and actually, Marie Carroll and I personally reached out to Wells Fargo. We made it as far as to their foundation people. One of the things that makes it, there are two things. First, Wells Fargo is many generations away from Henry Wells. And so their connection to Wells College is not as strong as we would like it to be. But the second and probably most important thing that I would say is that they don't have a regional office here. And because they don't have a regional office, they're much less likely to support us. So if you look at places like Ohio, where Wells Fargo Bank is very plentiful, you'll find that they're giving a lot of grant support to colleges within their region. But here in Aurora, we haven't been able to build a connection to them, neither Wells Fargo or American Express. But we have tried. We continue to look to open doors, and we'll continue to try to find the right way to make a connection with them.
Thank you, John. I know it's hard right now with, excuse me, just corporate giving generally, with that. Sherry Rosen, class of 90. Half of your question came through, but not the other half. And it's kind of leaving me on a cliffhanger. So it's, has Wells considered advertising or showcasing students or student groups at? And if the answer to that is the Academy Awards, I'm in and I volunteer. I don't know, Sherry, can you help us answer that?
It says at the New York State Fair. That's how it ends.
Oh, is it? Okay. Thank you. At the fair. Thank you.
Well, actually,
So not
we
the
have
Academy
a
Awards.
billboard actually not far from the New York State Fair. As you all know, the New York State Fair did not happen last year due to COVID. I don't know, Gerard or Chris, I don't know the value of actually advertising at a venue like the New York State Fair. Kind of like putting a billboard in an airport. People walk by it, they notice it. Does it really do any good?
Well, we're going to send you up to the New York State Fair for all 17 days, lots of fried Oreos, and you can talk about Wells that whole time. No, we have, that's funny. I have not thought about the State Fair itself. Like President Gibraltar said, the marketing company that we're working with has done a lot of regional work, between Syracuse and Ithaca and Rochester in particular, but also reaching further east towards Utica and even all the way to Albany in terms of our target market. The fairgrounds also right now, for those of you who don't know, are actually a mass vaccination site for COVID-19, although it is my understanding that the fair will happen this year. So that's a great idea. I will add it to my list, but it's not something that I had personally considered earlier.
Thank you, Chris. I'm looking at the follow-up in the, okay, yes, the billboard on Route 690 going through Syracuse between Teal Ave and Thompson Road eastbound. Wow, that's very specific. So everybody headed to Syracuse, Gen Z has given you the way to go. have we thought about okay, so, now all of a sudden we've got all of these things coming in. So here's the deal. I'm looking, it's at the bottom of the hour, 7:30. We're going to go through 2 or 3 of the questions in here, and then we're just going to see where we stand. Okay. So, does Wells have a butter sculpture? That could be an interesting art project thesis. I mean, again, it's not
fair joke.
I have requirements for where the VP of a reunion goes. I don't know if I'm a butter sculpture person. I'm from Minnesota. We have to do the butter sculpture here.
If we
See?
do, it would
There
have
we
to
go.
be a
Okay,
Wells Fargo coach.
There you go. And on that note, Marina has a follow-up in that, and I know we had, a whole bunch of follow-ups here for Wells Fargo. One is, have we thought of offering a position on the board of trustees to someone from Wells Fargo? And the other I'm going to do as well was, we used to have a internship at the Wells Fargo Museum in San Francisco as a way to rekindle the relationship, just as 2 ideas. And I know some people that have been extremely successful in their career with regard to history and museums, etc. If I can help with that, so let me know. And so does Betsy. She's in there too. So I think the question about the board of trustees, John, is that you? Is that
What is the question?
you want to take that one as a hey? Yeah, good idea.
What's the question?
The question was, have we thought about offering, I'm sorry about that. That was poor facilitating. Have we thought about offering a Wells College or offering Wells Fargo a position on the board of trustees?
Well, it's certainly an interesting idea. And if any of you know somebody high up at Wells Fargo and would like to make the introduction, we'd be happy to build a relationship with that person. It takes time to build a relationship with somebody, to bring them close enough to an institution to then compel them to want to be a trustee for that institution. So if any of you have connections, please let me know. We will follow up on them.
It's as if Renee read your mind as you were typing, or as you were speaking, Renee was typing that. So yes, let John or Marie Carroll, class of 75, know if you know anybody at Wells Fargo. Okay, I'm gonna do, there was a question up here before the butter sculpture, and it was Ria. And I'm gonna say, if you have any last minute questions, go ahead and get them in now. Oh, and one comes in, but Cindy, I'm going to go to you. As new programs and offerings are being instituted, what other programs have been dropped or minimized?
Right. So really 3 this current year are being phased out. And they include programs that have had very, very few majors in the last decade. Economics and management, philosophy, and Spanish. And while those majors are being phased out, we'll still be offering courses as well as minors in those areas currently. And trying to reconceptualize those areas in ways of having curriculum that draws students. This year we had no econ and management majors graduate. We had no Spanish majors graduate, and we had the last major in philosophy graduate. We simply can't run majors that only have a student graduating every other year or thereabout. It's just not, it's not financially feasible, but more than that, it's not the educational experience we want our students to have. Classes that are too small just aren't good pedagogy. So it's finding that right balance. It's finding a way of delivering more traditional academic subjects in ways that bring in students rather than ways that exclude students. And so faculty have been having that conversation for the last 2 years, really, because surely nobody thinks about a liberal arts institution and not having philosophy courses. right? But what does it mean to consider the discipline of philosophy in 2021? And what is it that we want our students to engage with in terms of concepts, knowledge development, and thinking about critical issues? So they've been some tough conversations on campus, quite honestly, right? Anytime we're needing to do away with a major, it's a death in the family. It's painful. It's incredibly painful. But I think the faculty have come to understand that things must change, and things have always changed in the academy, albeit somewhat slow at times, right? We have always changed in terms of what we're offering and to whom we're offering that. And a reality is that between the economic recession of 2008 and a COVID crisis of 2020, the cost of an education, of a college education for families, right, has become so prohibitive to certain families that the families are starting to really say, why should my child go to college? And how do we answer that question, right? And I think higher ed, and this is my personal opinion, not opinion of the cabinet or the president, it's my personal opinion. That's my disclosure. Right, higher ed for a long time took the easy way out in terms of justifying its existence by saying you'll make more money. You know, you'll have greater return on investment in terms of financial security. That has come back to bite us as an industry, quite honestly, right? That's not a good enough reason to have people engage in the work that, from my personal belief, is that higher education is about transforming lives and making lives better, right? That there's a personal good, but there's really a public good. And for many decades, higher education has turned away from the public good. And now we're needing to justify our existence.
It's interesting to hear you say that, Cindy, because I think it's, no pun intended and no disrespect intended, it is a little bit of a supply and demand issue, right?
Oh.
And I think that you don't need to be a major in economics to take a class in economics and get the principles and be able to critically think on the topic or hold an opinion, or at least that's me speaking with my one class in economics, and I, was in a finance career for 20 years. So I think that it's completely possible. I think there's a great conversation happening in the chat around that, generally speaking, with regard to having access to things of that nature, as well as it is sad when we have to stop something. Could you speak, and this will be the last question, about what we've strengthened? Renee made a really good point. Like, okay, we aren't just cutting things. What's been improved? What are we building on and leaning in?
So, I mean, I think we're improving on providing students with better experiences to engage them in their education. So what I see as a movement underfoot with the faculty and programs that are coming on, and not just in terms of majors, but just in terms of how we approach educating students, it's how do we get them engaged? How do we immerse them? So if you've read the strategic plan, you've seen the talk about a pre-vet or an animal ecology immersive program that Lindsay Burwell is heading up, which is modeled on the program that we have in terms of our rural health immersion program. We're seeing that same type of development in terms of the hospitality program of having immersive experiences. So really having students have sustained focus experiences outside of the classroom, that their classroom experience and their academic program experience inform. So I think we're making progress there. We're recognizing, and I think, if I think back, as I said, I just finished my 15th year. If I think back to where Wells was when I started in 2006 and to where we are now, we have grown immensely in terms of recognizing that our student body is constantly changing and that our responsibility is to serve the student body that we have. So, I think in terms of what does that mean? It means in terms of the supports for students to be successful in their courses, the supports for students to be successful in navigating their social experiences, their physical and mental health experiences, right? That we have become a much more student-centered institution. And I see that as amazing progress. And I think that's important, right? And so I think now it's time for us to go the next step, right? To go from being a student-centered institution to being a student-readied institution, right? That we need to be ready for the students who are coming to college, rather than sort of thinking about college, and students being ready for college. But how do we as an institution support the students who are coming to us and bringing everything of their lived experience and helping them to be successful their collegiate experience, right?
Cindy,
So I hope that answers the question.
Well, it put a smile on my face, and a lot of smiles and a lot of nods as I could see through the chat. So I think you've got a lot of people the cost of higher ed is terrifying. You've got some people getting kids ready to go. I hear you on that. What I'm going to do is say a couple of different things on that. The first is Cindy mentioned that Professor Burwell is one of our professors who's speaking at Alumni College. So I strongly recommend that if you are not yet registered, you go ahead and get your little Zoom link to the Alumni College Accidental Medicine, which is on Thursday at 6:30. Not to be forgotten is the Alumni College Gender Journeys, and
7:30.
Porter is telling me to stop.
7:30.
Thank you. I'm in Minnesota.
You're in Minnesota. If you didn't register and changed your mind, just shoot me an email at alumoffice@wells.edu and I can send you the link. Sorry, 7:30 p.m. Eastern.
This is why we need to be not virtual. So the times I get them right. That's one more reason next year.
Teamwork makes the dream work.
It totally does, Porter. So again, Gender Journeys is tomorrow at 7:30. And then if you attended this and are also, sorry, I'm looking at my calendar, there's more. Saturday, a current student hour. So this I'm super excited about, just with what Cindy said, becoming a student-centered organization, or really focusing on the user. Like we talk about user experience and learner experience a lot in work and in development. That is really it. So let's hear from some current students. And that is at noon Eastern, 11 for us Minnesotans on Saturday. And then 1 o'clock is 1 o'clock Central, 2 o'clock Eastern. I'm so messing this up. Look at your registration, everybody, is the WCA meeting. And then what has become a staple of entertainment, trivia gone virtual. We know this means that as soon as we're live and in person, we're going to have a virtual element of some kind. And nothing says Kristen loses her voice on Friday night quite like a trivia event. So go ahead and sign yourselves up. I have a couple of pieces of factual trivia that I took from today that will be included in that. So if you attended this, you're a step ahead of everybody else. So on that note, I want to say thank you to the cabinet for attending. I really, truly, I'm going to say this at every single one of these. Rachel Porter, Emily Van Ostrand, Rachel in the development office, Emily in the communications office. This virtual reunion would not have happened without those two women, and they're just rocking it every single day, every single email. So thank you very, very much for everything you've done. There they go, their faces. So if we were live, I'd give them a standing ovation. So I'll give them one next year. How about that? So with that, I will say thank you. Have a wonderful evening, and I hope to see you at Alumni College tomorrow, or at least at trivia on Saturday, everybody. Okay, so thank you, everybody. Have a great evening, and don't forget to get your pledges in before June 30th. That's 5, that's 6, 7, 8. There we go. Have a good night, everybody.